You probably don't think of yourself as someone who wastes money. And you're right, you don't. But your bank account tells a different story, not because you spend too much, because of when you spend it. That's the thing nobody tells you. The problem isn't the amount, it's the order. Most people look at their finances and think the solution is somewhere in the numbers. Spend less here, earn more there, cut the coffee, drop the subscription, and sometimes that works for a few weeks. Then the same patterns come back, the balance drops again, and you're left wondering why nothing ever actually changes. Here's what's really going on. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's a mistake almost everyone makes with money. Not about how much they spend, about when they spend it. It's a timing problem hidden inside what looks like a spending problem. And the fix isn't complicated, but it requires you to rethink a sequence you've probably never questioned before. Let's start with the illusion. Most people who feel like they're pretty good with money have one thing in common. They don't buy things they can't afford. They don't carry heavy debt. They live within their means, more or less, and they're genuinely careful. They think before they spend. They pass on the expensive vacation. They wait for the sale. So why does money keep disappearing? Because being careful isn't the same as being intentional. Think about a typical month. You get paid. You cover rent, utilities, whatever's fixed. Then life happens. You grab food on the way home because it's faster. There's a subscription you forgot about. A birthday. A random thing on sale that you actually needed anyway. A Friday dinner that turned into 3 rounds. None of it feels like a mistake in the moment. All of it is technically reasonable. And yet, at the end of the month, there's almost nothing left. This is the pattern. And it's almost universal. The money didn't go somewhere dramatic. It didn't disappear into one bad decision. It dissolved. Slowly, quietly, in increments that all seemed fine at the time. Now, here's where the real problem lives. It's not that you spent money you shouldn't have. It's that the spending happened before anything else could. Before savings. Before investment. Before any kind of intentional allocation. By the time you thought about putting money aside, most of it was already gone. That's the spending timeline problem. It's not about the amount, it's about the order. Think of your income as water flowing into a container. Every month, the water comes in, and every month, it flows out through dozens of small holes. Some holes are obvious: rent, bills, groceries. Others are tiny and almost invisible: the app renewal, the impulse buy, the convenience charge, the "it's only $8" moments that happen 4 times a week. By the time you think about directing the water somewhere meaningful, the container is nearly empty. The water wasn't wasted, it just went everywhere before it could go anywhere specific. Why does this keep happening? Why, even when people know this pattern exists, do they keep falling back into it? 3 reasons. The first is habit loops. When money arrives, the brain doesn't experience it as a resource to be strategically deployed. It experiences it as relief. The pressure eases, decisions relax. And in that relaxed state, spending becomes the default. Not because you planned it, because your nervous system did. The second is what happens right after getting paid. For most people, payday triggers a kind of mental permission. Things that felt off limits the day before suddenly feel fine. Not reckless, just accessible. And so spending clusters around payday, not because you need things then, but because that's when the psychological gate opens. The third is the absence of intentional allocation. Most people don't have a plan for their money beyond covering what's necessary. Whatever's left after the essentials exists in a kind of ambiguous zone, not spoken for, not protected, and money that isn't specifically assigned has a way of vanishing into the friction of daily life. None of this is a character flaw, it's a system problem, and systems can be changed. Here's the shift. There's a principle that's been around for decades, endorsed by almost every credible personal finance framework, and ignored by almost everyone. It's called paying yourself first. The idea is simple. Before any spending happens, before food, before fun, before anything, a fixed portion of your income is automatically moved into savings or investment, not after you've handled everything else. First, before the water starts flowing through the holes. But here's what most explanations of this principle miss. It's not primarily about savings. It's about sequencing. When you pay yourself first, you change the order of operations for your money. The allocation isn't something you do with what's left. It's the first thing that happens. And that single shift in sequence changes everything downstream. Because here's the truth. People don't fail to save because they're undisciplined. They fail to save because they're trying to save what's left, and there's rarely anything left. The discipline was never the issue. The order was. Let's make this concrete. 2 people, same income, same city, same basic cost of living. Call them Person A and Person B. Person A gets paid on Friday, covers rent and bills, spends normally through the month. By week 3, money is tight. By week 4, there's almost nothing. They think about saving, but there's nothing to save. They tell themselves next month will be different. Person B gets paid on Friday. Within 24 hours, a fixed amount, 15% of their income, moves automatically into a separate account they don't touch. They live on what remains. Some months feel tight, but the money moved. It happened. It's protected. After 12 months, Person A has saved almost nothing. Their income covered their life, and their life filled their income. Person B has over a month's worth of income set aside, not because they earned more, not because they were stricter or more disciplined in their daily choices. Because the sequence was different, the money moved before it could dissolve. After 3 years, the gap isn't a little wider. It's a completely different financial reality. Person B has options. An emergency doesn't become a crisis. An opportunity doesn't require debt. They have breathing room, not because they sacrificed dramatically, but because they changed the order in which their money moved. This is what the timing shift actually produces, not wealth through restriction, space through sequence. And here's something that surprises most people when they try this. Once the money moves first, spending doesn't actually suffer as much as they expected. You adapt to what's available. Your brain recalibrates. The same behavioral flexibility that caused the water to fill all the holes adjusts to a smaller container. You still eat well. You still enjoy your life. You just do it with money that was already designated for living, not money that was supposed to become something else. The problem was never that you spent too much. It's that you spent in the wrong order. The difference between financial stress and financial stability, for most people, isn't income, it isn't discipline, it isn't knowledge, it's sequence. Money that moves first gets protected. Money that waits for what's left gets spent. That's not a moral judgment, it's just how timing works. You're not bad with money. You've never been bad with money. You've been following a sequence that was never designed to produce savings. You spent first and saved second. Because that's the default. Because nobody handed you a different order. Because it always felt like the responsible thing was to cover everything before putting anything aside. But covering everything first means saving last. And saving last means saving almost nothing. The question isn't whether you can afford to save. The question is whether you can afford to keep letting the sequence stay the same. So here's what I want you to sit with. Think about the last 3 months, not the big purchases, the flow. Where did the money go before it could go anywhere intentional? How much arrived, and how much of it had a destination you actually chose? Because the next time you get paid, something happens in those first 24 hours that determines everything that follows. And for the first time, you get to decide what that something is.